everyone, welcome to my channel. Today is a rainy day, it's cloudy, so I just wanted to sit down and have a little bit of like a story time where I'm going to be telling you all about after graduation, my applying for my dream job and interviewing for that job experience, because that's a really big deal and it was really exciting and nerve-wracking and there were so many emotions. So let's just get started with the story time. Before I get started, if you have not seen my student teaching video, that video will be linked down below and at the end of the video, so go and watch that because that will give you a little bit of background to what I did after graduation and my experience in college, and it was awesome. So go and watch that. But I graduated and it was December, so that's like not prime time to apply to be a teacher. I really started looking at what was available in like November. So I was still student teaching and knew I was going to be graduating in a couple of weeks, and so I needed to figure out what I was going to do because I wasn't going to be a student anymore. So I kind of looked and really had two options. One was to jump into a classroom right away, which I didn't really want to do, and the other was to substitute teach, which made me nervous, but that's kind of what my plan was I was going to graduate, apply to be a substitute teacher, and that way I was going to get to know a lot of different principals. I was going to get my name out there. I was going to be able to experience different grades. However, a couple of weeks before student teaching was going to end, the principal at my student teaching school pulled me into his office, and to summarize what he said, the behavior in my student teaching class was so extreme and abnormal that when student teaching was over, they were going to hire somebody to be a paraprofessional or like teacher's aide type of position for the first grade, particularly in that classroom, because you just needed a second adult body in that classroom. You needed somebody who could run after students when they ran out of the room, or who could take over the class for 10-15 minutes at a time when another issue is being figured out. So he basically offered me the job right there and then, said, if you want to fill that position, you want to stay in this classroom, the job is yours. You have a relationship with the students. I know you're a good teacher, and I know you're going to hold the school standards and the classroom standards, and you're going to make the kids do it. So then I had this third option to stay in this classroom, and he gave me a couple days to think about it because that's kind of a big deal to be offered a job from the principal you taught at, a principal from the school you taught at. And I thought it over and decided that was going to be the best thing for me. I loved the students, I loved the school, I loved the environment, and it was going to be a really unique opportunity for me to work and teach students from beginning to end of year. So I taught the kids the first half of the school year as a student teacher, and then the second half worked with them in small groups, worked with them one-on-one, and I really got like deep personal relationships with the students that I really wasn't able to connect with super easy while I was student teaching because they had a little bit more of a behavior issue. So I was really able to just like sit with them, talk with them, figure out what was going on, and I connected with a lot more of the students. So it was really a unique opportunity, and I knew there wasn't going to be another teacher applying for jobs that really had that same experience, and it was going to help me maybe have an edge on other people, and it may have been a disadvantage, but I felt like that was going to help me as a teacher improve, was to stay in the same classroom versus jumping around being a substitute. So that's what I did. And while that was all going on, and while I was being that paraprofessional, I started researching the schools around where I lived. When I went online, most of the jobs said that they were going to be post March 1st. And so during February, I got my resume ready and my letters of recommendation, and I just got everything ready in February. And so I remember on February 28th and just not being able to sleep. I was so nervous, so excited to be applying for my dream job. Like, this is what I had wanted to do since I was like 7 years old. Like, I was thrilled and anxious and just all of the things. It was just everything. When I woke up the morning of March 1st, and they posted all the jobs at 8 a.m. So I was there at 8 a.m. on the computer, went to the website, and was just literally applying for everything. I had watched all of the tip videos that were out there for teachers, the interview questions, the advice for getting a job, all of it. And while watching, they all said to just apply for everything, don't be picky as a first year teacher. And in my head, I was kind of thinking, you know, oh, I'm in Utah, there's a ton of kids, there's a shortage of teachers, and a ton of new schools opening. So being a first year teacher is not gonna put me at a disadvantage at all. And that's kind of what I was thinking. But I applied for everything nonetheless because I knew it was just gonna give me interview experience, and it wasn't a big deal. And I remember like convincing myself, like I had to talk to myself and be like, you're not gonna hear back right away. It's going to take a couple of days. There's a lot of people applying, like don't worry about it. But nonetheless, I was still anxious and just excited and nervous and wanted to hear back like 30 minutes after I applied. But a couple days later, I got my first phone call from a school, and we set up an interview, and it was a school I was actually really excited about because it was a school really close to where I lived, and was a school that seemed like they had a lot of school pride, because I am one of those people who I'm gonna paint my face different colors and go to the park rally and sing the school song, and like that is me. So I wanted a school that had that same attitude, who were so excited about their school and so proud to be there. And they had a video online, this school, that just made me think that that was the kind of school that this was. And so I just was really excited to go and interview there, and I felt like I was gonna fit in perfect, and it was just gonna be amazing. Well, a couple days later, I got another phone call from a charter school in my area. And I really wasn't applying for a ton of charter schools because I didn't know anything about them. Like, had no background. Pretty much I knew 2 people in my life that went to a charter school, and they both loved it, but I didn't know anything about the teaching side, like had no idea. But I went to the website when I was applying for jobs, and they had some videos, and the videos just really reflected my teaching style, and I just really felt like if I was going to teach at a charter school, this was going to be the charter school I was going to teach at. So I set up that interview for a couple days after my first. So I went to my first interview on a Thursday, and it was parent-teacher conferences at the school. So it was super crowded. Everybody was a little bit stressed out, and I don't know, like something about having all the parents and students there, like while I was going to interview, was really intimidating. But I walked into the school and went into the office, and they had one person working in the office, but she was really like in and out getting things ready for conferences and just really was not focused on me at all. And so I kind of just like sat there and I reviewed my notes. I wasn't sitting on my phone because I didn't want to like give a bad impression or something. So I tried to like look like I was preparing, even though I had done a lot of that. Like I just like tried to look like I knew what I was doing. And then I saw one person that they had just interviewed walk out of the office, and that was extremely awkward. Like we're competing for the same position, and that's really uncomfortable. But then the principal, vice principal took me into the room. We interviewed, and overall I was really happy with the way I answered questions, except for one, which was kind of a big one, which was behavior management. When they asked me about it, I know I gave them like specific phrases, but I didn't show them that I had a plan. And I did. I had thought about this plan for years. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't tell them. I didn't let them know that I did. And so the interview was only 15 minutes long, and that's extremely short. And I didn't really know how long to expect the interviews to go because this was my first interview, and I don't know, like I just didn't really know. And so I got in my car, and I knew 15 minutes was really short, and that made me really uncomfortable, like with how short the interview was. The other But on the other hand, in the interview, they made sure to double check all of my references, make sure that contact information was all correct, which I thought was a really good sign, because why bother to do that? Why do that extra step if you knew you weren't going to hire me and you weren't going to call? So I thought that was a really good thing. And then they also asked me to, or they also invited me to look around the school, because it was parent-teacher conferences, the school was open. They allowed me to walk around the school and kind of familiarize myself with it. And so I thought that was also a good sign. Like, why have somebody walk around your school that you just know you're not going to hire? So I kind of thought, oh, there's good things, there's bad things. But overall, I felt really good about the interview. On Monday, I had my next interview, and this interview was like right after school. So I had to leave school, go home, I changed clothes really quick, and then ran to the school. And there happened to be an issue at the school that day, so I was running late, and my hair was a mess, I'm sure. I looked probably totally stressed out. Makeup was not refreshed. Like, I looked like a hot mess, I'm sure. I was pretty much running into the school to get there on time. And this was a charter school, and so I thought, there's no way they're gonna hire me. Like, this interview is going to be a mess because I just don't feel prepared. I don't know anything about charter schools. Like, it's just been a chaotic day. But I walked in and composed myself, and like, I had to give off like that I was just totally prepared for this interview. And I walked in, and there was no adults in the office at all, which was kind of odd, but it was fine. They had students in there. However, there was 3 students, and I walked in, and one little girl asked me, she's like, are you looking for somebody? Like, who are you? And I told her, oh, I'm here to interview for teaching here next year. And she said, oh, for 3rd grade? And I said, yeah, exactly, for 3rd grade. And we just talked. She was in 3rd grade, and we just talked about our favorite things in 3rd grade. And the other 2 students, those young men, they started talking. They were also in 3rd grade, and so I was asking them, what's your favorite parts? And they liked fractions and multiplication, which was awesome. And we just talked about why 3rd grade was awesome. And the principal walked in while I was talking to the students, and then when she walked in, the kids were all like, she's here, the person you're interviewing is here. And they were so excited that I was here to be interviewed. So we went into the room, and it was the principal and then the 2 3rd grade teachers at the time. Only one of them would be a team teacher, but they both were there. And we went into the interview, and they just took turns asking me questions. And it was extremely comfortable. Like, it was more of a conversation, honestly, than a interview. We really were able to just talk, and, you know, we laughed, like, it wasn't hanging out, like, it was not that comfortable, but, like, it really was, like, a conversation. And at the end of the interview, I felt really good about it, and they asked, you know, do you have any questions? And I had always heard that you should always ask a question, don't say no, because that doesn't show that you're interested in the job. So I asked the difference between public school and charter school. Why do you prefer the charter school? Like, what's really the main difference? I don't have a lot of experience. And I was just really upfront about, like, I've never been in a charter school. Like, I really don't know what it's all about and why it would be better. And they just each took their turn to answer the question, and they really thought about it, and they had that answer, and they each were so, like, smitten with the school and the program, and they loved it. And that was huge for me. So I left that interview feeling like if I could teach at this school, I would be so thrilled and excited. Like, it felt so good walking into that school. Like, the vibes, just everything felt so good and like a place I wanted to be. And so I left. The interview was longer. Like, there really was no signs to me that I wasn't going to be offered the job. And that's kind of how I felt. So both jobs said that I should hear by the end of the week. And it came to the end of the week, and I got an email from the first school that I was not being offered the job, that they decided to go in another direction. So that was like a huge slap in the face. Like, everybody says you don't get your first interview because it's your first interview. You're awkward, you don't know what you're doing. And I thought that like that didn't apply to me because it was Utah. I don't know. Like, I don't know why I thought I was gonna nail that first interview, but I didn't. And so I wasn't offered the job. And so at that point, kind of thought like, oh, so I didn't get the other job either, because I answered a lot of the same questions and I answered them a lot of the same ways. I had convinced myself I didn't get the job. So I, at that point, was really stressed out, went on and applied for even more jobs. Like, I just was really stressed out, hadn't received any other phone calls or interviews or anything like that, which stressed me out because I probably applied for over 20 schools and only heard from 2. So that was kind of buggy also. But I went to school that next day, and it was a Thursday, and my principal at the school, the same one who offered me a job when I graduated, the same one that was like the best principal I'd ever worked with, was going to be moving schools to a different elementary, and they had some openings, and he offered me an interview. So I didn't officially apply for the school or these jobs, but he basically said we can interview and then do the application stuff later if we need to. Well, the next day, I didn't work on Fridays. I worked Monday through Thursday. So on Friday, I was home and I got a text from the school saying, like, there's an opening for the interview with the principal if you want to go and interview today at 3 o'clock. And in my head, thought, yeah, I didn't get any jobs, so I'm gonna go and interview. So I went to interview with him, and I walked into the school, and I felt better about the school than I did the first school I interviewed at. Like, definitely probably would have been excited to teach there, but it wasn't the same as the second school. Like, I didn't get that same feeling of like, I would love to teach here. And it was one of those things that was like, again, just really casual because he already knew me. He had literally watched me teach. He had seen me take over the classroom for an entire day. Like, he knew I was a good teacher and had told me that himself. So like, I wasn't that stressed out about that interview, and I don't know, wasn't that stressed out, and it went really well. I was very explicit and felt really good about it. I felt really good about the probability of me getting that job. Like, I felt really comfortable that I would be offered that job. So that made me feel a lot better. On the literally on the way home from that interview, I got a phone call from the charter school offering me a job. And I was in shock, and I was driving home, and so I answered the phone on my car speaker, and the principal was like, is this a good time? It sounds like you're driving. And I was like, yeah, I'm driving, but it's on my car speaker. Like, it's fine. You know, what were you gonna tell me? And anyway, she offered me the job and gave me the weekend to think about it, because this was a Friday, and I went home and was so excited. Like, I was just offered my dream job. That I was on top of the world. Like, was so excited. My dream job, my dream grade at a school I was so excited about. Like, my position could not have been better. And I went to school that Monday, and the principal called me into the office and asked if I'd been offered any other jobs, and I told him, yeah, I have, and he said to let him know if I was going to take it or not, but he was going to have me, the next step for him would be to meet with the other, it was a 4th grade position, meet with the other 4th grade teachers. Me and one other teacher were going to do that, and they were going to kind of see who they thought was going to best fit their team. And that was kind of the next step for that position. But again, I felt really good about getting that one also. So at that point, that entire day was thinking about, you know, say I was offered this job with my principal. I have these two options. So it was a really hard decision. They would have both been great schools, but I ended up telling my principal that I was just going to take the school that was closer to my house, which was the charter school. So I went ahead and emailed back my new principal and told her I would love to take the job. I was so excited about it. And the rest is history. I am now going to be a 3rd grade teacher at a charter school here in Utah, and I am so excited, like just so excited. And I do want to mention, as kind of like my farewell tip to people watching this video who are maybe getting ready to interview, the principal, when she called, she then emailed me an official offer letter so I could sign and send back. And in the email where she sent the offer letter, she mentioned that what made me stand out was that I was talking to students and that I connected to students right when I walked in. That was what made me stand out and what no other person who interviewed did or got to do. And that was my point of standing out. Like, that's why I got that job. So my advice would be something that so many people say, but it's literally the reason I got my job, was that the interview starts from the moment you walk into that school. Like, the second you're in the school, you are interviewing. There's people in the office to talk to, there's students, there's like walking out of the school. Thank everybody for their time. Like, your interview is the entire time you are there and not just when you're sitting in that chair answering questions. Good luck if you are going to be interviewing. I hope you enjoyed hearing my story. I know that I'm going to love like looking back at this video and the first time I applied for my dream job and got my dream job, and just like how excited I was, because I literally, like, I don't know how many times I've said literally in this video, but a lot of times, because I was so pumped and it was just so good. Have a wonderful day. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of the fun adventures I'm going to have as a 1st-year teacher in 3rd grade. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!